Deborah Ellis was born in Ontario, Canada on August 7, 1960. She decided to start writing when she was about 11 to 12 years old. In high school, Ellis became involved in the peace movement and since then has become a peace activist, humanitarian, and philanthropist. Ellis visited Afghanistan in 1997 to interview women in the refugee camps. She became motivated to write The Breadwinner after befriending a girl she met at the camp who cut her hair and wore boys' clothing to support her family. Ellis also continued to write books about social issues in Canada such as poverty, racism, and terrorism in Toronto. In 2008, Ellis published a collection of short stories that explores the lives of children who have been affected directly or indirectly by drugs. Ellis is also a philanthropist, donating almost all of her royalties on her books to organizations such as Women for Women in Afghanistan and UNICEF.
You know what occurred to me?
No.
You're just a kid. You don't have the faintest idea what you're talking about.
Why, thank you.
It's all right. You've never been out of Boston.
Nope.
So if I asked you about art, you'd probably give me the skinny on every art book ever written. Michelangelo. I know a lot about him. Life's work, political aspirations, him and the Pope, sexual orientation, the whole works, right? I bet you can't tell me what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel. You've never actually stood there and looked up at that beautiful ceiling. Seen that. If I ask you about women, you'd probably give me a syllabus of your personal favorites. You may have even been laid a few times. But you can't tell me what it feels like to wake up next to a woman and feel truly happy. You're a tough kid. I ask you about war, you'd probably throw Shakespeare at me, right? Once more into the breach, dear friends. But you've never been near one. You've never held your best friend's head in your lap and watch him gasp his last breath looking to you for help. I ask you about love, you'd probably quote me a sonnet. You've never looked at a woman and been totally vulnerable. Known someone that could level you with her eyes. Feeling like God put an angel on earth just for you. Who could rescue you from the depths of hell. And you wouldn't know what it's like to be her angel. To have that love for her be there forever. Through anything. Through cancer. And you would know about sitting up in a hospital room for 2 months, holding her hand, because the doctors could see in your eyes that the terms visiting hours don't apply to you. You don't know about real loss, because that only occurs when you love something more than you love yourself. I doubt you've ever dared to love anybody that much. I look at you, I don't see an intelligent, confident man. I see a cocky, scared, shitless kid.
It's difficult for kids to understand topics they haven't experienced, to grasp the hardships people face that they haven't known themselves. Topics like rape, war, disease, knowing someone who ended their own life, having your home destroyed by war, or seeing a loved one die. How do you get people to relate to things they haven't lived through? How do you get kids to understand? Deborah Ellis has achieved this feat in her writing. She puts kids in the shoes of her young characters, kids their own age who experience vastly different lifestyles, and this form of writing allows kids to understand.
A winner of the Peter Pan Prize and the Middle East Book Award. The Breadwinner was the first book that Deborah Ellis wrote and one of her most popular. The book is set in Kabul, Afghanistan, where Parvana, the main character, lives with her siblings and parents in a one-room apartment. After her father loses his job and is captured by the Taliban, Parvana is forced to find food for her family by cutting off her hair and dressing as a boy. Ellis found her inspiration for this book after she visited an Afghan refugee camp in Afghanistan. She interviewed many of the women and girls who were a part of this refugee camp as a way to try to understand their frustrations and aggressions toward the inequality that they were facing. This book is a fictional account of a girl that Deborah Ellis met while being at this camp. By using courage as her recurring theme throughout most of her books, Deborah Ellis made Parvana's character relatable for young readers. The book also opens young readers' eyes and puts them in the shoes of kids from other countries, and to teach them to not judge a book by its cover. The specific age target for this book is ages 10 and up. In an effort to try to help out the refugees, all money made from this book is given to the camps to help fund education for women and girls.
Deborah Ellis's book, The Heaven Shop, takes place in Malawi, a small poverty-stricken African country bordered by Mozambique, Zambia, and Tanzania. The book is about Binti, a self-centered 13-year-old girl whose life turns completely upside down within a short amount of time. After her father's sudden death from AIDS, Binti and her sister Juni are separated from their brother Kawai and banned from continuing their education. They become outcasts, and Juni turns to prostitution. Binti has to fend for herself, and she learns that she can go cold and hungry, work tirelessly, and even comfort others. Kids can relate to this situation through her experiences. Deborah Ellis is able to tactfully educate readers on HIV, AIDS, and rape. She does so by promoting the theme of looking after each other and supporting the ones you love. "You brought AIDS home to live with us?" Aunt Agnes exclaimed. "How could you? There's no need to worry unless you touch them or drink out of the same cup. Things like that," Uncle Wisem told them. "I know all about it." "That's not right, is it?" Binti whispered to Juni. "What did you say? I don't like children to be whispering secrets." Aunt Agnes glared at Binti. "I was saying," Binti began when Juni didn't speak up, "that neither of us have AIDS, and even if we did, and I don't like children who talk back either." Aunt Agnes stood right in front of Binti and Juni and pointed her finger in their faces. "Understand?"
Deborah Ellis's Three Wishes is an addition to the fictional trilogy exploring the plight of children in war-torn Afghanistan. In this book, however, she has real children speak in their own voices, narrating the lives and feelings about their homeland and their wishes for the future. The groups of children interviewed are both Israelis and Palestinians, personifying the disruption and distress created in young people's lives by the conflict in the Middle East. Ellis interviewed the children on a visit to Israel and the Palestinian territories in 2002. Ellis prefaces each interview with context explaining the situation in the country and about the child's own experience. Three Wishes, however much disturbing, gives children of a sheltered North America an insight to the enormous contrast between them and the children in the Middle East.
Winners are loners, and that's kind of a universal thing, I guess. People feel like they're on the outside and they don't have a sense that they can change their circumstances. They just tend to hover around the outside and that doesn't change. I was pretty much like that right the way through school. However, I had a rich fantasy life and I loved to ride my bike around the town, build forts, and do stuff like that on my own and head off on my own. Here Ellis is describing her childhood as a social isolate, having little friends and living in her own fantasy life. She didn't mind being alone as a child because she found her passion in different things such as exploring nature and writing. As a child, I was also a big reader. I grew up in a small town and some of my favorite books took place in New York City. Books like Harriet the Spy and a marvelous book by James Lincoln Collier called The Teddy Bear Habit. Ellis got hooked on reading at a young age, pretending a liking to big city settings such as New York City, as she notes. This sparked her interest to write, as she started to write several short stories for fun. Groundwood was having a contest for people who had never written for that age group before, and that was me, and so I wrote a book to throw in the contest. If they had a contest for animal stories, I would have written an animal story. It doesn't really matter. Here Ellis is discussing how she got started in the genre of children's literature. Publishing company, Groundwood, had a contest for authors who hadn't previously written for children. She won the contest and got picked up by them. She went on to write books such as Looking for X and The Breadwinner, which both won awards.